The house I grew up in, well, I guess we moved there when I was 2 or 3 years old, and we were there until I was about 15. And blacks were on one side of the street, whites were on the other side of the street. Uh, During the summers and the afternoons, we played together, and then when it was school time, I went one way, they went another way. And so, you had that interaction, yet and still, when you went downtown, I remember the colored fountains. Um, I remember, not seeing others sitting at um, a lunch counter or a food counter in Woolworths, and not being able to sit there. But at early ages, you didn't question it. In Little Rock, the majority of folk uh, were a-okay with the status. It was almost like everybody was sort of just getting along. You had your world, and and at that time, I think. Particularly parents and other elders in the black community, they spent so much time trying to make certain that the young folk understood they could still do and be whatever if they got an education. I think that was the whole thing. Everybody was just trying to make certain that you knew if you studied and you got an education, you could rise above all of the others. I think we did feel the magnitude of the hatred, which was it was hard for us to sort of wrap our heads around, in a sense that there was that much hatred. But we understood that it was real. I think for me, though, when the realization truly hit me, it was in the spring of my senior year, and we had gone to Lincoln University in Jefferson City, Missouri, for a journalism workshop. The opening night, you would have an opening night banquet, and your school would stand up and say, from a school, 4 or 5 students representing, and you'd stand up and say what school you were representing and where. Well, when we stood up and said Harrisman High School, Little Rock, Arkansas, boy, the cameras started, flashing lights, and people rushed over to us. And I mean, they were saying things like, "You have on shoes?" Just, it was almost to say, "You're black and you got out of there," or, that was a eye-opening experience, though. And it showed me how images can be distorted, and the importance of the word, what's said, how it's said, when it's said. Even to this day, I can't understand why they were marveling so at, some black high school students, being at a conference. I mean, it still amazes me. I mean, what did they think? Where did they think Little Rock was? It was still part of this country. Little Rock was thought, at least I thought of it as a place where race relations were good. Now I know it was at a different level, but at that time it just seemed like, a natural process. And I think that, at least for me, tends to help shape my view of what the legacy of the March on Washington, the early civil rights movement activities